Guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Think Once Code Anywhere. Today let's start our first session on mastering DSA. So today's agenda is going to be what is DSA. Right? So first we'll discuss about what is DSA, then why to use DSA, then problems which we are going to face with arrays, and why do we go with data structures. And next is about DMA, where DMA stands for dynamic memory allocation. Then we'll learn about the basics of time complexity. Then we'll learn about how to implement a linked list and types of linked list. So this is what the agenda for day 1, and let's quickly move with the slides. So first is what is data structure. So data structure is nothing but simply arranging the data, or even you can say it as structuring the data in a particular format. So that exactly is considered to be a data structure. So it includes mostly with organizing the data, storing the data, as well as managing the data into a database. So not only a database, it can be anywhere. So even if I take a very complex program to write a code for the same, I have to go with the concept of data structures, and I can't prefer array, right? So let's see in detail about why we can't prefer array and why we are moving with data structures. So it can also be implemented in two ways. So one is by using the normal array implementation, and the other implementation is nothing but dynamic memory allocation, where it purely depends on data structure concepts. So this is what exactly a data structure is. So I'll repeat once again, like data structure is nothing but structuring of all the data in a simple fashion, right? So structuring of data, or else you can also say it as arranging the data in a particular order. So this is what exactly is data structure. So why do we use data structures, right? So a data that is getting stored into my database must be sorted, and it should be stored in a particular order, right? So that is the main reason why we are going with data structures. So not only to store into a database, whenever I just try to manage a program with complex data or more number of data. In that case, I have to arrange that, I have to sort that, and I have to at least do some particular procedures over that, so that I can retrieve the data back in a easiest way, right? So this is the main reason why we are going with data structures. And we can also use arrays, but only when we have least number of data in our given input, right? So only in that case arrays will be a useful one, and otherwise we can't use arrays for a millions of data or huge number of data. So before moving in depth about data structure, let us see about what are all the different types of data we have, or different data structures we have. So for example, here we have actually two different kinds of data structure. So one is linear data structure, and another one is non-linear data structure, right? So elements that are arranged in linear order, right? So in linear data structure, all the elements will be arranged in a linear order. Say for example, everything will be arranged in a consecutive manner. So sometimes we might arrange everything in a consecutive way, or it may not be in a consecutive way, right? So and when it comes with non-linear data structure, all the elements will be arranged according to a hierarchy, right? So according to non-linear data structure, everything will be arranged in a hierarchy, and here only one level is included. So that is, in linear data structure we have only one level, because everything will be arranged in a sequential order, or even it can be a linear order either in row wise or column wise. So that is why we are considering this as single level is involved. And when it comes with non-linear data structure, multiple level is involved. Since it follows a hierarchy, it follows multiple level. And here when it comes with linear data structure, the implementation part is absolutely easy, but when it comes with non-linear data structure, the implementation part is very complex, right? So unless otherwise we are going to learn it completely and we have an in-depth knowledge about that, we might feel it is complex to implement a non-linear data structure. So here, when coming back with linear data structure, traversing through the data is very easy, but when it comes with non-linear data structure, traversing is again going to be a complex one. And in linear data structure, one drawback is memories are not utilized efficiently, right? So memories are not utilized efficiently, and here in non-linear data structure, efficient utilization of memory occurs every time. So this is what the major difference we need to focus on linear data structure as well as non-linear data structure, where some example for linear data structure includes arrays, linked list, stack, queue, etc. And when it comes back with non-linear data structure, the important examples which we need to speak about is trees and graph. So this is what the major difference between a linear data structure and non-linear data structure. So here there is a hierarchy about data structure. So we have linear as well as non-linear. Under linear we have arrays, stack, queue and linked list. Under non-linear we have trees as well as graph. So I told you prior that usage of array is not preferred much when it comes with the data structure program, right? So because array implementation has actually a lot of drawbacks. So the first drawback is size cannot be modified frequently. For example, if I have declared an array element with the size as 5, I cannot change the size of the array element unless otherwise it is implemented in a dynamic fashion. So and next thing is execution time is comparatively slower than a normal data structure format, and array is actually not handy to use when it comes with large amount of data. So this is what some problems which we used to focus, or which we will be facing much whenever we try to implement a program by using an array. And there are some more problems that will occur on using an array. For example, the very most frequent problem which we will be facing for larger amount of data when it comes with the implementation of array is nothing but segmentation fault. So have you heard about segmentation fault? So segmentation fault is nothing but it occurs when an array cannot be created in the available memory. For example, now assume that I have a box which can hold only 4 balls, right? So assume that we have a box that can hold four balls. So now if I try to create or if I try to insert 3 balls into that box, it can hold. If I try to insert 4 balls, it can hold. But the problem arises when the size of the ball or when the count of the ball gets increases. For example, if I have 5 balls and I have the same box, in that case that box is now not suitable for storing all the 5 balls, right? So this is what the main example, or this is what the problem which we are going to face when it comes with segmentation fault. So segmentation fault is nothing but whenever your compiler can't provide continuous memory for all the blocks which you have tried to create by using the array. So this is exactly called as segmentation fault. Let's see a small example for segmentation fault. So here in this program, what I have done is, so I'm trying to get the value of n from the user. Followed by that, we are creating an array, and for the array, the size is given as the value which the user is going to feed. And now we are just trying to print the first index value of the array, right? So here the user has given a maximum value here, right? So for n, the user has given a maximum value, and at once, instead of printing this particular line, right? So instead of printing the line number 8, it is actually displaying the output as segmentation fault. So this mainly occurs because the compiler cannot provide that many space or that much of continuous memory blocks to be allocated for this one particular array. So that's the main reason why we have received our output error as segmentation fault. So this is all about segmentation fault which comes under array, and that's the main reason why we are not going to focus anywhere with arrays in our entire series, right? So this is the main drawback of array, and why do we go with a new concept called as data structures. So this is all about memory allocation that takes place in arrays as well as data structures. And if you see the first image over here, we have a ice cube tray, right? So we have an ice cube tray and we have exactly 12 ice cubes here. So I cannot store more than 12 ice cubes, but I can store less than 12 ice cubes. And one more drawback is everything should be of same size. So if you see this entirely, all the ice cubes are of same size, right? So it means that in an array, it is mandatory to have same data type for all the elements which we are going to use. Same way here it shows something about a ball bearings. So here in this particular diagram we have a ball bearings, and whenever we go with a pulley or whatever mechanism we are using in our vehicle or whatever it can be, always the ball bearings that is fitted inside a particular device should be of same size. So again it proves that it is one more real-time example which we can consider for an array. So now let's see about what is data structures and how memory allocation takes place in data structures. So here you can see two images. So in the left hand side we have a roller coaster image, and in the right hand side we have a seat. Either it can be auditorium or it can be a theater or whatever it can be. So the main difference of roller coaster as well as this theater seating arrangement is nothing but in a particular seat anyone can sit. For example, even a fat guy can sit on one seat, even a small kid can sit on the same seat, and so on, right? So here it is not that the size, right? So it is not about the size. Whoever it needs, whoever they require the seat, they can allocate the entire seat. And same way in a roller coaster, even kids can go, even adults can go. So whoever it can be, either he can be a lean person or he can be a fattest person or whatever it is. So this is what a good example for a data structure, or even you can say it as dynamic memory allocation. And there are few more things which we need to know about a dynamic memory allocation. For example, now assume that you are visiting this theater and you have a family of around 15 members. Okay, so assume that you have a family of around 15 members. Now if I try to get the entire arrangement, or if I try to get 15 consecutive seats, sometimes you may or you may not get all the 15 seats in a same row. So what will happen is you will allocate the front row, then for remaining persons you will take the second row, and so on. Or wherever you find some free space, we used to allocate all those spaces. So this is what exactly is called as dynamic memory allocation. So here we have something about what is the relation between a roller coaster as well as seating arrangement. So actually roller coaster as well as the seating arrangement of a movie theater, or else it can be auditorium, is nothing but it purely depends on dynamic memory allocation. So wherever we have a free space, we can utilize that, and any such data can be included into it, right? So for example, see the image over here. So all the red color blocks represents that it is a dead state, and green color block shows that it is a live one, and white color boxes shows that it is a empty one. So in this image everything is not in a continuous order, but it is in a descrambled version, or you might say it as a contiguous process, right? So contiguously we have some memory and we are going to utilize that efficiently. So this is nothing but dynamic memory allocation. So dynamic memory allocation is nothing but effectively utilizing all the available memory space, but not necessarily to be in a sequential order like arrays, right? So that's the one good advantage of using a dynamic memory allocation, so that whenever I try to create a huge or even a millions of data by using the concept of data structures, by using dynamic memory allocation, every compiler can accept all the input and it can provide sufficient space for all the memory items that has been created. So this is what one good advantage of using dynamic memory allocation. So let's start implementing DSA. So before going into DSA directly, we'll just learn something about time complexity, right? So we are not going to focus much on time complexity, just we'll learn about the very basic fundamentals of time complexity, and then we'll move with implementation of a linked list. So the time required to execute a program completely is called as a time complexity, and here the range starts from, right? So we have a lowermost range as well as we have a worst case time complexity, best case, and whatever it is, right? So most frequently we used to notate it by using big O notation. So we used to say time complexity in terms of big O notation, and O of 1, that is order of big O of 1, is always considered to be the least time complexity required to solve a program. Same way, O of n factorial is considered to be one of the largest time complexity, or even you may say it as the worst case time complexity that is required to solve a complex program. For example, here the range starts from O of 1. After O of 1, the least amount of time complexity is considered to be O of log n, then it will be O of n, and O of n log n, then O of n square. So instead of square, it can also be O of n cube, n to the power of 4, n to the power of 5, or whatever it can be. And last one is O of n factorial. So this is how the time complexity for a program will be calculated. And if you want to learn more about time complexity, we have a series of time complexity already uploaded in our channel. Please do go through those videos and learn much about time complexity. And here we have some few examples for a time complexity. So for example, if we have a loop that starts from 1 and ends with n, it means that the entire time complexity for the program depends on the value n. So the final time complexity is calculated as big O of n. Same way, now if I have a loop, for loop with a nested for loop inside that, then it runs for n into n times. So the time complexity for this case is considered as O of n square. Same way, if I have two separate loops, right? So assume that we have two separate loops where it runs from 1 to n. In that case, the entire program will have a time complexity of O of n. So this is what it is considered. And next, if we have two separate for loops with one single and another nested, for example, now assume that I have one single structured for loop and I have a next for loop where it is nested with one more for loop. In that case, the first for loop will have a time complexity of O of n, but the second for loop will have a time complexity of O of n square. So finally, for the entire program, our time complexity will be considered as O of n square. So this is what the basics of time complexity is. And now let's quickly move on with the implementation of singly linked list, doubly linked list, as well as circular linked list, where these are all the types of linked list available in data structure. So we have only three types of linked list. So first one is singly linked list, doubly linked list, and circular linked list. And why do we have an image of a train over here? So it is nothing but a linked list is nothing but always it will have a starting point. For example, here in a train we have an engine, right? So here we have an engine in our train where engine is going to act as a first element for your entire train, right? So engine acts as a first part for the entire train. Same way, when it comes with linked list implementation also, we'll have a very first element always called as head. So followed by that, we have some compartments in the train. Same way, in linked list, we used to consider that as nodes. So now let's see how to implement a linked list. Okay guys, so now let's discuss about the implementation of a linked list, right? So first, so before going into the implementation of linked list, let's see how exactly a linked list is going to look like. For example, already we have seen in the previous video about a train will be there, we have something called as engine, and we have some compartment, right? Same way here a linked list looks something like this. So it will be looking like compartments where we used to call it as nodes. So here let it be node 1, this is node 2, and let us have one more node and let us name it as node 3, right? So let's have some nodes like this. So each and every node have a specific address value. For example, how a train has a compartment or coach number, same way each and every node has a individual or a unique address value. For example, let us assume that the node 1 has the address value as 1000. Same way now node 2 has the address as 2000. Same way now let's assume node 3 has the address value as 3000. So this is how a node has been created automatically, and it will be assigned with some random values which is given by the compiler by itself, right? So we are not going to give the values here. It is some example numbers which we have focused on, but when it comes with implementation by using a compiler, it will be completely based on the compiler by itself, right? So now let's see how to implement this code into a code. And before that, we have two boxes here, right? So under one single node I have two partitions. Same way in each and every node we have two partitions, and if you look at each and every node, all the nodes will be completely a same one. So for example, node 1, node 2, node 3 will be completely same, but only difference is the address value as well as the numbers which we are going to write inside this. So here two partitions are there. So let's assume first partition is called as data part and second partition is called as next part. So how your coaches will be interconnected. Same way, now assume that this is my first node and this first node should be connected with the second node. Same way, second node should be connected with the third node. After third node, now assume that this is going to be your last node and there is no such node after this. So there is no connection to be given after this. So let us assume that in node 3 the next part should be null. Same way node 2 is now pointing towards node 3, so node 3 has the address 3000, so it means here I have to fill it up with 3000. Same way here your node 1 is pointing towards my node 2, so instead of 1000, instead of next I have to give it as 2000. Same way instead of data, let us fill it with some values like 10, 20 and 30, right? So now if you see this, I have my first compartment, second compartment and third compartment, but to carry out all these compartments I need an engine, right? So that engine is nothing but your head variable, but your engine will never have any such compartments or any such division. It is going to be a single value. So inside head what I am supposed to write is, so with the very first node's link, so first node is nothing but the address 1000, so my engine is now getting a connection with the first node is getting connection with second node is getting a connection with the third node. So this is how your entire linked list looks like, right? So whenever you try to create a node, it looks in this particular order, right? So then before that, why do we create a node? For example, we have something called as data types. So we have a data type, and inside data type we have something called as integer, where integer will be there, float will be there, we have string as a data type and so on, right? So we have too many data types, but still I have one such doubt, like is there any data type which can hold multiple data types inside the same thing, right? So for example, if I consider it as integer, it should hold a integer value as well as it should hold a floating point value at the same time. Is it possible? So if you ask the question, is it possible to have two different data type under one single entity or one single data type? Actually for normal data type it is no, it is impossible to do that. But if you use an object, if we use this in the format of object, yes, it can be done. So that's the main reason why we are going to use a linked list over here, because here if I consider the data part as well as next part, so 20 can be an integer, but this next part, that is the object reference, will be of any data type which we can't promise as of now, right? So the compiler will consider it as any different data type where no one can give the assurance of what data type it is going to be and what is going to be the value the compiler will assign and so on, right? So it is any such random value, it can be generated automatically. So as a normal humans, we can't give the assurance about the values which is going to be generated by using our compilers. So that's the main reason why we are why we are considering this as an object. Now let's see what are all the types of linked list. So we have certain types of linked list also, and the very first type of linked list is nothing but singly linked list. And second type is considered as doubly linked list, and third type is called as circular linked list. Right, so we have singly linked list, doubly linked list and circular linked list. So let me say you some real-time example for all the three linked lists. For example, when it comes with singly linked list, so now assume that I'm going to play a game. So assume that you are going to play a game and it is going to be a car game. Right, so we are going to play a car game where we have multiple laps. Right, so assume that you are going to play a car game and you have multiple laps to cover. So after one lap is done, right, so after first lap you can move with second lap. Right, so after the first lap I can go directly with the second lap, but at any cost we cannot move back with the first lap again, right? So here the laps gets on increasing. It means that once a particular lap is done, we are not going to focus on the previous lap, or once the lap is done we are not going to focus on it anymore. We'll be incrementing the laps again and again and we'll be moving forward. So this is a main example for a singly linked list. So when it comes with doubly linked list, a real-time example can be gallery in our mobile phone. So gallery in the sense, for example, now assume that you have your first image and you have your second image I have my third image as well as I have my fourth image, right? So assume that you have photos in your gallery. Now I'm clicking on my first image to view that, right? So from the first image, since we are using touch mobile phone, if you swipe towards from the screen from left to right, so if you try to swipe from left to right, you won't see any such difference happening on the screen, because left to right will bring you the previous value, right? So this direction, so from left, if you swipe towards right in this way, it will actually bring previous photograph. Where one doesn't have any previous photo, it is going to be null. But on the other hand, if I move from right towards left, it will move the screen to the next photograph. For example, after 1 I have the image 2, so from 2 I can iterate in both directions. So either I can go with image 1 or I can go with image 3. Same way, from image 3 I can go with image 2 or I can go with image 4. From 4 I can go with image 3, but I can't go with the next image because we don't have any other image over here, so it shows a value as null. So this is how your doubly linked list works, and a real-time example for your doubly linked list is nothing but gallery in your mobile phone. Same way, even you can consider any menus that happens to be in your mobile system or whatever it can be. For example, now assume that you are going into a website and you'll be having home page, about page, and so on. So whatever tabs or whatever buttons you click on the same website itself, we'll have or else in the browser at the top we have a back button. On pressing that particular button, we'll be moving one step back every time, right? So we'll be moving one step back, as well as we can move to the next page again. So it is one more good example for a doubly linked list. And last one left out is circular linked list. So circular linked list is nothing but doing an action endlessly. So doing a specific action endlessly is considered to be a circular linked list. For example, we have a habit of repeating a song or playing a song again and again in our music player. So one song, it will be repeated many times. So this is nothing but it is a circular linked list. So after the end of a particular file, again it starts from the beginning of a file and it is repeating one more time as a loop. So this particular process is called as a circular linked list, or this can also be considered as a real-time example for a circular linked list. Now let us assume the same image itself. So from the fourth image, I told you we cannot traverse to the next image, right? So now assume that this is given in a circular format, so that after fourth image I can move back with first image. Same way, if I move with previous or first image, I cannot go with any other values, right? So what I'm going to do is, instead of null, I'm going to give the reference of fourth image, so that first image previous will be fourth image and fourth image next will be first image. So it looks like a circle, right? So it looks like a circle where it doesn't have any starting point as well as a ending point. So only thing is, we'll just trigger out with the number 1, and after we start with the number 1, and if we start with a slideshow or whatever it can be, it will move from 1 to 2, then from 2 it will traverse to 3, from 3 it will traverse to 4, again from 4 it will traverse back to 1, so from 1 it will be 2, 3, 4, and again 1. So it will be an endless infinite loop. So this is one good example for a circular linked list. So now that's all about the basics of linked list. Now let's jump into how to implement a linked list. Now let me show you how to implement a linked list. So implementation of linked list should be done in 4 ways. So we have to remember 4 steps or 4 ways before implementing a linked list program. So the very first step is class creation. So the very first step on linked list is going to be class creation. Second one is insertion method. Third one is going to be display method. And last one is going to be your main method. So this is how your program implementation should be. So first one, class creation. Second one, inserting the values into that class or the object which has been created. Third one, displaying all the values. And the last one is going to be our main method. So let's start writing a code. So before that, let me teach you what exactly is a class. So class is nothing but it has the entire blueprint for a particular object, or even you might say something like a class is a thing which has multiple objects, and inside a same class I can have multiple variables or multiple objects to be declared. And even you can consider a class as a compartment in a train, where inside a same compartment you can have n number of people. So you can have multiple people, where people will be belonging to different state, or even they can belong to different places, or whatever it can be. So but only thing which we need to remember is a class. So inside a class we are going to create an object. So for this class we will be creating an object. Whenever I create an object, the object is going to have a different items called as node. So with the help of this class we will be creating a node. So first step, let's see about first step. So for first step I'll teach you how to write a syntax for this. So first is we have to create a class named as node. So not only node, you can give any name you want to create for your class. So here I am giving class node. Inside this class node I need to have something called as public as an access specifier, because whatever values I'm going to create for a node, it should be of public visibility mode, so that anyone can access the entire node. So inside public, what I have to do is I need to create two partitions. So one is going to be a data part, and second one will be node star of next. So why do we use star of next here? Because this star represents, it is a pointer variable. So why do we use pointer? So a pointer is nothing but it holds the address, or even you might say it as reference of other objects. Right? So a pointer is a variable or an object that holds the address of another objects. So this is what the main definition we have to focus about a pointer. Now what we have done is we have just created a class named as node, and here we have given a public visibility for these two variables, or for this object as well as this variable. So this is of integer data type and this is of node. So it is nothing but it is an object. And after this class, what I need to do is we need an engine to run our entire train, right? Same way I need some one variable called as head. So let us give it as star head, that is pointer head is equal to null by default, comma, I'll be using one more dummy engine here. So I'll be using some additional engine to iterate through each and every values. So let us name it as temp is equal to null, comma. So along with this, I want to create my node every time, right? So I want to create a new node, or I want to create an object every time. So we are going to give the name as new node. So this is what the first step which we are going to do, right? So first step is creation of class, and inside class what we are doing, we have given a public visibility mode, inside which we have two variables or two objects created. One is of integer type and another one is of pointer type. So this pointer type is going to hold the address of your next compartment. So same way I have head. So as we have discussed in the previous one, we have a head as well as I need something called as temp, and I need to create new node every time. For example, see here we have node 1, node 2, node 3 which is created each and every time, right? So for that reason we have used new node over here. And second thing is we have head, right? So this is nothing but the engine which needs to hold the first node's address. So that is why we have created a head variable over here. And what about this temp? So temp is nothing but in 1000 I need to store the new node's address, so that should be 2000. Then again in 2000 I need to store the new node's address, so that should be 3000. And for this iteration process we are going to use a variable called as temp. So now we have completely done with the first process. So out of 4 ways we have done our first way, and now let's move with second way, that is inserting method, right? So in insertion what we will be doing is every time I'll be creating an object for the class, right? So for second method, so we are going to create an object. So create an object for class node. So this is what we are going to do every time whenever we are going to start with the insert method. So insert method starts with something like void insert, and here it should be node star of head, comma int data. So I'll tell you why we are writing note double star of head and int data. So here why I am using note double star is nothing but I want to hold my engine. So as of now my engine is going to hold null, right? So in this entire value of the engine I need to store the new node that has been created for the first time. So after that I don't want to look back at this engine anywhere. So this is what the first step which we have to follow. So followed by this, what I need to do is, so the very first step I need to create an object, right? So we need to create an object for the class node. So how to create an object? So just write new node is equal to new node of, right? So what we have done is, in this line we have actually created an object for the class node, right? So for the class node we have created an object. So what will happen is, at once I do with this process, an object will be created with two different partitions, right? So at once I call this new node, an object will be created with two partitions, namely data part as well as next part. So you will have two partitions, right? So now after this what I need to do is, this new node has a data part as well as next part. So new nodes data, so this arrow mark is called as membership operator. So this arrow mark is called as membership operator, which points to data. So in new node compartment, in the block data, I want to modify it as data. So where data is nothing but we'll be passing it from our main function, right? So as of now just understand what I'm writing here, and when it comes with program execution you will understand it in depth. So followed by this I want to give new node of next should be equivalent to null, right? So new node of next should be equivalent to null. So now what will happen is, for example, assume that I am passing the number 10 from the main function. So at once you create an object, it will be assigned with the number 10, and here it will be allocated with the value as null. So after this what I need to do is, so it will have an automatic address value or automatic reference ID generated. So let us assume that that reference ID generated here is equal to 1000. So now the new node variable will be holding the value as 1000, right? So now the next step is I will be going with the if else condition. So if star of head, so if the value of head is equal to null, right? So if the head value shows that it is equal to null, it means that I need to give the first compartment's address. So if you see the previous one, so head will be always holding the first node's address but not with second or third node, right? So it should have only the first node's address. So how we are going to make it to be the first node, right? So initially head value will be null, and that is the only time I want to change the head value to be the first node's address. So if head value remains null, it means that I want to change head value, that is star of head will be equivalent to new node. So now what happens is, instead of this null, this value will be replaced by 1000, that is going to be your new node. So followed by this I also want to change temp value to be new node. So what are we doing here? We are just giving out head value to be new node as well as temp will also be equivalent to new node. Now whenever this condition fails, it means that there is already one compartment in your train. So now if I want to add my second compartment, where should I add? So second compartment should be added after your first compartment. So how to implement that second compartment? So you will be going with else part, and in else part what I need to do is temp of next. So where temp will be holding the previous new node, right? So temp will be holding the previous node that has been created, or even you can say the last node which has been inserted into your list. Now temp of next should be modified as new node. So it means that, now assume here you have null, right? So this 1000 is now pointed by both head as well as temp. So your head as well as temp both are pointing towards this this node, that is 1000. So now what I need to do is temp of next, that is 1000's next should be equivalent to new node. So now assume that I have created my second node. So assume if I come back to this lines, it means that I have executed these lines in prior. So now assume you have created one more new node, and now this variable, that is this new node variable, now holds the number as 2000. So now if condition will be false, so these three lines will not be executed. and it will go back with the else part, and in else part what do I have? Temp of next equal to new node. So temp of next, so instead of null I'll be modifying it as new node, where new node now shows 2000. So here it is going to be 2000, so automatically we got a link with the first node and second node. So in prior what will happen? So new node will be getting inserted with data as well as null. So let us write it here. So now you have successfully created your first node, and first node has a link with second node. After that, if I try to insert one more new node into this, now what should I do? So I cannot directly say temp of next should be equivalent to new node, right? So in that case, I need to modify the temp value with the last node that is getting inserted. So it means that after this, just write temp equal to new node. So if I write temp equal to new node, it means that now after execution of this line, now what happens is this temp value will be pointing towards 2000, and now assume we are again coming back with the same function, and now I have created one more object for this, and let's assume the data generated is 30, and as usual it is given as null for the next part for the new node. And now this is going to be a new node, right? So this is going to be the new node, and now what I need to do is I'll be checking with if condition. Again it's going to be false because head value is equal to 1000 and not equal to null. So I'll be going with else part, and temp of next equal to new node. So what is temp now? So temp is equal to 2000, so 2000 next will be new node, so that is 3000. So see here, your second node now gets a link with the third node. So again next step is temp equal to new node. So now temp is not pointing towards 2000, so temp will be pointing towards my new node. So this is how your program works. And if you closely analyze this, your head will be always pointing towards the first node towards second node towards the third node, and so on. And at last, if you see, the last node will be pointed by two variables. So one is going to be your new node and another one is going to be your temp. So these two variables, or these two objects, will be pointing towards your last node. So this is how your program execution completely works. Now before going into next two method, that is we have display method as well as main method, right? So display method is very simple. So first I'll start with head, and I'll check whether head is equal to null. If head is equal to null, it means that there is no compartment in your linked list, or there is no such node available in your linked list. Instead, if your head has any value, it means that your head has some other values, or your linked list has some existing nodes. So this is how this entire logic is going to work. So what I'm going to do is, first I'll be starting with head of value. So head of value shows thousands value, that is 10. After that I need to modify head value as head of next. So if you modify head value as head of next, in this case what happens is head will be modified as head of next, that is 1000 will be modified as, so at first head will be holding 1000, now head will be pointing towards thousands next, that is 2000. So head will be now pointing towards your second node, and again I'll be displaying my head of data, and I'll modify head with head of next. So next time it will point towards third node, and when it reaches null, I'll stop the entire execution. So let's write a code to print all the values. So void display, and here we need to write node star of head. So it is just a dummy variable, or even you can say a local variable that is created for this class alone. So here what I want to do is I will be writing a while loop and check if head not equal to null. I will be running a loop. So what I want to do, I want to give cout head of data. So cout head of data. After this, head has to be modified as head equal to head of next. So this is how your entire display process works, and this is going to be the third part which we are going to implement in our program, right? So first I'll be passing out the value as 1000. So 1000 not equal to null, I'll print 1000 of data. So inside the block 1000 we had the data 10. So in our output screen number 10 will be printed. So next step, what will happen is, now head is modified as head of next. So what is head of next? It will be 2000. So after this it will come back to the condition itself. So 2000 is not equal to null, condition is true. So what is there in 2000 of data? It will be 20. And when it comes with next time, it will be 30. So it will be 3000, right? So when it is 3000, it will go on printing 3000's data. So where 3000 of data is nothing but we have the number 30. So it will print 30. And what is 3000 of next? It is going to be null. So 3000 of next is equal to null. So this value will be now equivalent to null. So see here, null not equal to null. Is it true? No, it is false. So it will just break the loop and it will stop the entire program. As a result, we'll have these numbers displayed on our output screen. So this is how the display function works. And now we have left out our main function, right? So we have left out the main function, and let me quickly show you how to write a main method. So int main. So let me declare a variable called as data. Followed by that, let's start a do while loop. So I have to do this infinitely till I reach till I give a negative value, or else a value that is zero equal to 0 or less than 0. So do see in data, right? So we are just going to collect the data value from the user. Followed by collecting the data value, then I want to check if data greater than 0. If data is greater than 0, then I'll call out the insert method, and I'll pass the original position of my head as well as the data collected from the user. And we have to run this loop till your data value becomes greater, or if your data value is greater than 0, I have to continue this loop endlessly, and at last just call out the display method. So display of, just pass the head reference alone. So this is what the entire program is. We have just 4 steps, and it is so simple to write a code. So we have done with all the 4 methods to be implemented here. So we have created a class, we have created an insertion method, we have created a display as well as a main method. So let me go through this one more time for you. So first one is class node. So we are creating a class which is going to hold the entire values that has to be given for a compartment. So for one particular node, I need data part as well as next part, and I need few more values here. So it is going to be a engine, which is nothing but your head, and a new node which has to be created every time, and a temporary variable. So this is just for a temporary location or temporary storage. And next is about insert method. So in this insert method, I have no double star of head, right? So see here in your main method, we actually pass ampersand head, where ampersand refers to address of this head variable. So we are passing the original variable itself. So that's the main reason why we are using a double pointer concept. So double pointer is nothing but, for example, now assume I have an integer variable a is equal to 10. So what will happen in background is a memory will be allocated for a and number 10 will be stored. So let's assume that address of a is equal to 1, right? So let's assume it is going to be 1. Now I have a pointer variable, let us name it as b is equal to address of a. Right? So I have a pointer variable b, and now the variable b holds the address of a. It means that for b, I need to create a memory block. It holds the address of a. So address of a is 1, and assume that b has the address 2. Same way, now let me say something like I need a variable c, but c holds the address of b. Right, so I cannot say it is going to be only one pointer, it should be 2 pointer, right? So why is it 2 pointer? Because b itself is a pointer variable, and if I try to store the address of another pointer variable, I need to use it as double pointer. So now what happens is c will be holding the address of b. Now if I try to print the value of a, my value will be 10. So if I try to print b, my output will be 1. But star of b will give you something like star of 1, where star of 1 represents the particular memory location. So this particular location where we have the value 10. Similar to this, if I have star of c, my output is going to be 1, because star of 2 that represents 1. Same way, if I have star of c, it gives the output as 10. So star of c, it gives the output as 10. So this is how the pointer concept actually works, right? So that's the main reason why we are passing address of head as well as the data which we have collected from the user side, and we are running this loop endlessly till the data value is given less than 0 or equal to 0. So after that, after the end of this particular loop, we are just going to call out display method, and we are just passing out head, where head will be holding the first node's address, and this process takes place for printing all the values. So this is how your entire program works for a singly linked list. Now let's move on with doubly linked list and circular linked list. So for doubly linked list, just one change we have to make in the entire program. So I'll show you where we have to make change. Here you have to insert one more additional line, that is going to be node star of previous. So star of previous, what will happen here is, instead of creating 2 blocks, it will actually create 3 blocks. So one will be previous, another will be next, and this is going to be your data part. So this is what an example for a node creation for a doubly linked list, right? So this is how it will create for a doubly linked list. Followed by this, here you need to insert one more line, that is new node of previous is also equivalent to null. New node of previous will be equivalent to null, and after that, whenever I go back with this, so temp of next will be new node, right? So after this node, it should be new node, but new node of previous should be temp, right? So if I create next node, it means that this should have a link with this, and this part should have a link with this. So for that, what we have to do is, so along with this, write one more line, that is temp, or else a new node of previous, right? So new node of previous is equal to temp, and next is new temp of next will be new node, and then temp will be new node. So this is one more extra line which we have to write. So if you analyze this program entirely, we just made 3 changes. So first is creating one more object here, that is node star of previous inside your class node, and second change is new node of previous should be by default equivalent to null, and next step is new node of previous should be equivalent to temp, right? So new node should point towards the last node that has been inserted, and the previous node should point towards the new node that has been created. So this is what the example for creation of a new node, or creation of a doubly linked list. Then just one small change is going to convert the entire program into a circular linked list. So what is that one change we are going to make? So that change is nothing but, here we are giving new node of next equal to null, right? So instead of giving new node of next equal to null, let us give it as star of head. So every time my last node should point towards my first node. So this is what we have to do in a circular linked list. So that's all about the implementation of linked list. So do remember, we just have 4 ways, or we have to create 4 methods or 4 divisions for this. First is creation of class, then insert method, then display function, and at last your main function. So this is about your class creation. We have to create a node, and next is about inserting process. After inserting process, we just have a main method as well as a display method. So that's all about the implementation basics of a linked list. Now let's quickly see about how to convert this entire thing into a code. So now let's discuss about how to implement the entire procedure into a code. So here I will be taking C++ as well as parallelly we will be working with Java, right? So whatever code I have written in C++, it will be completely the same one which I am going to write in Java also, right? So please do make sure that you are listening to the entire video so that you will have a clear-cut idea about how to write the same code in both C++ as well as in Java. So now let's start the code using C++ over here. So initially what I have given is the necessary header files which I need to use for the entire program, followed by that using namespace std, and hope C++ users, you will better know about these 2 header files as well as the first line. So since I don't want to use this standard everywhere inside my program, I have declared it universally. And now let's start giving our class name. So class node, so followed by this. So after creating a class, so I want to give the public specifier, so public, and here I need int data, and next one should be node star of next. So as of now, what have we done? So we have done just creation of a class. After creation of class, we have just given the variables which I need to give inside the node whenever it was created. So followed by this, I need something like node star of, or else you can directly give it as head itself. So let me give it as star head equal to null, comma star of temp is equal to null, as well as star of new node is equal to null, right? So we have just done creation of our class and the necessary variables which we need to iterate through the entire program. So followed by this I need a insert program, right? So insert method, that should be the second step. So void insert of node star star head comma int data. So followed by this, what do we need? So new node is equivalent to new node of. So we are just trying to create an object for this class node, right? So after creation of object, what do I need to do? So new node of data should be equivalent to data. So this data should be stored over here, right? So that's what I'm giving data. And what about this data? So it is actually the name which we have given in 7th line, right? So now next line should be new node of next will be equivalent to null. So that's all about initializing values for the entire node. Now let's start writing a code with if else condition. So if star of head equal to null, if this condition is true, then what I should do? So star of head should be modified as new node, also temp should be modified as new node. So you might have a doubt, why do we use star over here and not for temp? Because star of head reflects directly with the original change in the head variable, but here I just need to temporarily store a value, but star of head represents a original value will be getting affected. So when I go with else part, then what should I do? So in else part we need to just write something like temp of next should be equivalent to our new node. Followed by this temp should be modified as new node, right? So temp equivalent to new node. So that's all about your insert procedures. So now let's write a code for display and then we'll go with main method. So display, void display of node star head. So let me just give enter here so that you will have a wide view here. So while head of next or while head not equal to null. So if head is not equal to null, then what I should do? So see out head of data and then a space. So followed by this, head should be modified as head of next. So after display method, so we have done implementing 3 parts of our program out of 4. So first is creation of our head node class, and after creation of node class we have successfully given all the variables we need to require for our program. After that we have just created an object and we have inserted values into our object, and this is entirely comes under the class or the method insert. So after that we have a display method, followed by which we need to write our main method. So int main, and inside which I need to declare int data. Followed by data I just need to have a do while loop. So do c in data. Followed by this I'm just going to give a if condition. If data is greater than 0, I want to insert that. So what I need to do is, so I'll just call the insert method and I'll pass head value and data, and this should run till the condition fails, right? So while data greater than 0, we have to do this process. Else I want to so if I break this loop, then I want to directly display all the values. So for display, what I'm going to do is display of head. So that's all about our code which we have written for linked list, that is singly linked list. Let's try to compile this once, and in this part we are getting an error, right? So let's see what error we are going to okay, so the problem is sorry, instead of star we need to pass the address of head, right? So that is what the mistake we have made. So instead of star we need to give ampersand head. So now let's compile the code. So it runs perfectly without any errors. Now let's try to give some different input and check how it is executing the same. So I have given input as 1 2 3 4 5 and 0. So at once it reaches 0, it should stop collecting the input. So let's try to give enter, and now see here it is giving us our output as 1 2 3 4 and 5. So now we have perfectly done our singly linked list program, right? So now let's move with Java, and I'll show you the code which I have written in Java. And if you try to compare the entire code of C as well as Java, right, so that is C++ as well as Java, it will be completely the same one, right? So there won't be any difference in the code which I have written except few syntax. So see here, similar to this, so in Java you very well know everything is based on classes, right? So everything should be enclosed within a class. So what I have done is, here we have class node and we have int data as well as node next. Same way here also I have class node, then int data and node of next, followed by which I have node head and node last, but new node I have given it inside here. It's a new node is given here, but here I have mentioned new node universally, that is globally I have declared it outside the method, and followed by which I have an insert method in C++. Same way we have insert method in Java also, and here see we have that list method, right? So instead of head I have used the name as list, and next is about int data. So same way we are just using head as well as data. So only changes in Java I have used the name as list instead of head. So followed by which here we are creating an object for the class node. Same way in line number 13 over here I am creating an object for class node. So followed by which here we have given new node of data is data and new node of next is null. Similar to the same one we have written the code over Java also. So new node dot next. So instead of membership operator arrow mark in C++, in Java we have the membership operator as dot. Right? So we have the membership operator as dot here, and followed by which we have a if else condition. See, so which is completely same as well, same in Java also, right? So if star of head equal to null, same way here I have list dot head equal to null, then we have list dot last equal to list dot last is now modified as new node. So instead of temp I am using the name as last, right? So instead of temp we are using it as last, and see here in else part we are just checking with the temp of next equal to new node, right? So here in C++ we have temp of next equal to new node. Same way here it is list dot last dot next equal to new node. So do remember in Java we can't use pointers concept. We don't have that pointers completely, and we even don't have address. So what we have to do is we have to completely pass the object reference. So list is an object, also last is an object, next is also an object. So make sure you are giving the global object along with each and every object wherever you are going to use, and at last make sure that you are passing this list again, right? So here it is not necessary to pass any values in C++, because in C++ we are actually using pointers concept, right? So we are using the pointers concept, but in Java we can't use that pointers concept. So only ways we can return the entire object reference and store it back inside same value. And here we have the display method. So see here display method is quite similar in both C++ as well as Java. So I have received linked list of list, and here we have node star of head and while list dot head, right? So in Java while list dot head not equal to null, same way while head not equal to null we are just printing out the value of head of data. Same way here also we are printing data, and head is modified as head of next. Same way here it is modified as list dot head equal to list dot head dot next, right? So head of next is just replaced with head. So this is what it happens with remaining three parts. And now let's move with the main function. So if I move with main function in C++, it seems to be quite easier, right? So here what we have is we just have int data, and we have a do while loop. Same way we have int data, and before this what we are doing is just creation of object for the entire class. So after creation of object for the entire class, we have that scanner object which is used to collect the input from the user, and next is inside do while loop we are just collecting the value for data variable. After that we are using if condition, and we are calling back the insert method, and whenever this insert method returns a value, it is again stored back with this list element itself, right? So since we do not have the pointers concept, we are using the original object reference, and here we are passing ampersand head, where ampersand head refers to the original address location, right? So this is what it happens in C++ as well as in Java. And at last, here I have display of head method, and here instead of display I have used the name as print list of list, right? So instead of head we are passing the list object directly. So this is how your program entirely works. So hope now everyone have a better clarity about C++ as well as Java, and the logic which you have seen in C++ is almost same one, except very few changes which we have to make in Java, right? So other than that, almost the entire code is going to be the same one. Now let me proceed with doubly linked list as well as circular linked list in C++, and I'll make sure that other codes will be uploaded in GitHub, and the link will be given for you in the description, right? So now let's see about further linked list procedures by using C++. So we have done with the singly linked list, and here we can have one more small change, like we can also reverse the entire linked list, right? So we can also reverse the linked list, and we can do whatever changes we want. That we'll just learn in upcoming sessions. So now we will just try to convert this singly linked list into a doubly linked list. So how to convert this single linked list into double linked list? So first step, so we have already discussed in that paper, right? So in that classroom based session, we have discussed about how to convert the entire program into a doubly linked list just by including 3 more lines. So first step is note star of previous. So first we need to have note star of previous, and next is along with this I need to give new node of previous is also equivalent to null, right? So we have declared a previous value, right? So what are the changes we have made? So I'll just indicate it by using this comment lines. So for doubly linked list, or else let me give it as DLL. So same way I have included one more line over here, that is for doubly linked list. And next is like so there is no change with if part, but only in else part we have a change, that is in new node of previous it should be equivalent to temp, right? So new node of previous should be equivalent to temp. So this is how your program logic works, and now there is no such difference with singly linked list and doubly linked list. So we have just entirely converted this singly linked list program into a doubly linked list. So let's compile this code and check how it really executes. So again we got the console screen, and let's type the input 1 2 3 4 5 and let's give 0, and see here it is giving 1 2 3 4 5. Now let's iterate from the last value, right? So let's try to implement this in a reverse case so that we'll have our final value in a reverse form. So what I'm going to do is, so same way we are going to follow everything, but only change which I'm going to make is whenever I am calling this display method, instead of passing this head, I am going to pass new node, right? So instead of passing head, we are going to pass new node, and same way here inside the display method, right? So inside display method, so head of data everything is going to be same, but head of net should be modified as head of previous. So I'm going to start from a final node, and after that, after printing the final node, I should go to the previous node, and so on, right? So this is how the program is going to work. Now let's try to compile this and check whether it really prints everything in reverse order or not. So I am giving 1 2 3 4 5 and 0, and now see your output is displayed as 5 4 3 2 1, which is nothing but reversing the entire linked list. So this is how our program works whenever we try to access, or we try to iterate it right from the first element or else from the last element. So hope everyone will be clear with this. And now let me just modify this into a circular linked list, right? So for circular linked list, let's have the display method as the same one, so it has to be an infinite loop, right? So for circular linked list it has to be infinite loop, and I told you clearly that for circular linked list only one change we have to give from a doubly linked list, right? So for doubly linked list we have actually given 3 changes. So one is insertion of previous node, and previous node value should be null by default, and new node of previous should be temp by default, right? So this is what the 3 changes we have made in a singly linked list program to make it as a doubly linked list. Now what I am going to do is, we are just going to convert this entire program into a circular linked list. So for that, only one change should be made from doubly linked list to make it as a circular linked list. So here instead of null, I am going to use star of head. So let previous be null. So next value should be modified as star of head, right? So circular linked list, only here there should be a change. So let's try to compile this, and yeah, so we don't have any errors. Now let's try to check what output we are going to receive. So I have given 1 2 3 4 5 and 0, and see here, at once I give enter, it is running in an infinite way. So if you see this, we have the input 1 2 3 4 5, again it is giving 1 2 3 4 5, again we are getting 1 2 3 4 5, and so on. So it is running endlessly, right? So this is what the program which represents that it is a circular linked list where it doesn't have any end. So let's try to compile this one more time by giving some other input. So 10 20 30 40 and 50. Now again see here, it is running endlessly. So this proves that this program has been implemented as a circular linked list. So let me revise through the code one more time. So first what we have done is we have just created a class named node. After that we have given all the data which is necessary inside our node. After that we have created all the objects that is necessary to iterate the entire program, followed by which we have created our insert method. And in insert method, the key thing is creation of object. Followed by creation of object, we have just entering values for that object. After that we have a if and else part which is going to play a vital role during insertion. After this we have a display method. So in display method we are just starting with null, so this is just a duplicate copy of value and not the original value. Followed by displaying this, what we are going to do is we have a main method, and in main method we are just receiving the input from the user, and we are calling the insert method till the user gives a value that is greater than 0. So after breaking off this do while loop, we are just calling off the display method, and then we are stopping the entire program execution. Same with Java also. So in Java also we are almost doing the same. There is no such big difference in Java as well as C++. So whatever code I have written in C++, so the same has been written in Java also. So let me just compile this one more time and show you how it really works. So in Java program I have given the input as 1 2 3 4 5 and 0, and see here we have received the same input from the same way what the user has given as an input. So that's all about implementation of linked list, and stay tuned in our channel. So in tomorrow's class we'll learn more about stacks, queues and other algorithms. So thank you for watching this video.